Now that we're powered back, welcome back to some more Stormworks. I'm StormRunner Gaming, and today the topic up for debate is efficiency in Stormworks. And I have built two cars here that are pretty efficient within the game. Of course, I did start talking about this in that Christmas special, that I wanted to take some cars and see just how efficient I could actually get them to be. Of course, if you have built cars, boats, basically almost any vehicle within Stormworks, you know you have to put a lot of fuel within them to go really anywhere. So definitely that efficiency number is going to be pretty small. And as you can tell, I made two cars here, and they're basically identical except for one thing. There's a 5 on this hood, if I could jump up there, and a 7 on the other one. And both the numbers do correlate to the RPS of each engine. That one being at 5 RPS, this one being at 7. So I do want to ask you guys, which one do you think is more efficient? Leave a comment down below. Let's see who guesses correctly here. You'd think, because this one is running at 5 RPS, that it would be, more efficient, but I'm not going to say right now. So, real quick, I do want to put a little bit onto that. Both of them do have a top speed of about 50 miles an hour. This one does have one extra gear to it, though. So just leave that lingering in the back of your mind when you make a guess. So we are going to look around the car real quick before we do take off. When I did start looking at this efficiency challenge, of course, I wanted to make something, pretty practical. Of course, this little hatchback here, does have 4 seats to it, so you can haul all of your friends in a server around pretty well. It's got that top speed of around 50 miles an hour, so it's definitely not slow by any standards. It gets you there pretty quickly, It's not the fastest thing on the planet, but it's controllable. It's actually a pretty nice ride. Definitely got some good trunk space there, but if we do jump in here, we can open up the hood and the trunk. So you can see we're using that small engine on the front end, and of course you do have plenty of space on the back end there. I do need to clean up that microcontroller there though, but let's close all that up real quick. There's nothing much to the interior of the vehicle. There is a little bit of wiggle room for your passengers, but of course the main controls in front of us, we've got the RPMs there, temperature, speed in miles per hour, the fuel in gallons, battery, the odometer, as well as our gear indicator. Of course, the basic lights and backlights, and the PRD on the side here. So, without further ado, let's get this on the road. Gotta take that out of park and get us going. Alright, so this is our 5 RPS vehicle here, and maybe behind me talking you can hear how quiet this vehicle is. Yeah, that's almost the highest RPMs it gets up to. Hold on. It almost sounds like it stalls when it goes to another gear. I had to put the lowest RPS I've ever done for any gears on this 5 RPS vehicle. I mean, it doesn't have much to it, definitely in terms of power. But it does get up to that 52 miles per hour. And the one gauge I didn't talk about is our MPG calculator right here. And all this little dial up here is doing is taking the fuel used and dividing that by the distance, the miles that we've gone, to get us miles per gallon. It's pretty simple. It does use the odometer I grabbed off the workshop. So when I do drop both of these on the workshop, I will just drop some credit to the creator of that microcontroller. But if you guys are going to build your own efficiency vehicles, I am going to leave a link to not only both these vehicles, but the microcontroller for MPG calculations as well. Alright, we've done at least one lap here. I mean, I've driven this vehicle for 10-20 miles to find around the average of MPG for it, and it'll get up to around 0.91 MPG highway. Highway just means you're cruising along at this 52 miles an hour. Of course, stopping and starting definitely does decrease your MPG there. So let's pull this back into the pits, and we're going to jump into our 7 RPS vehicle here. You guys may be wondering why I was talking about grabbing, either of these two cars or that MPG calculator there. Hold on, the new mission, the downed helicopter distracted me for a second. Well, more so my brain is throwing me off track. But before we do take off in the 7 RPS vehicle here, I want to talk about my efficiency challenge here. So if you guys did watch my Christmas special there, I talked about, of course, building an efficient car, but I think I did also talk about challenging you guys to see how efficient you guys get a vehicle. So I'm gonna throw the torch over to you guys and see, how efficient you guys can make a vehicle out in the Stormworks community. Like I said earlier, you can grab that MPG calculator, you can look at what I've designed here with these two cars, and I am going to put a couple parameters on this challenge. Of course, the car has to have 4 wheels, a body to it, at least a couple of seats, maybe 2 if not 4, doors, a roof to it, all of that jazz. And it also has to have a top speed of at least 50 miles an hour. Because of course you can make a slower vehicle that is more efficient than both of these vehicles, but kind of the challenge is based more towards something like practical in a sense is what I'm thinking. So yeah, I'd love to see what you guys are going to create for your efficiency challenge in the future. And if you guys do want to submit creations and whatnot, you can use my Discord. I've got links on the channel down below, wherever you can come and talk about your efficiency vehicles and drop me links, because I am probably going to do a video if you guys do or don't beat my efficiency in the future. But I'll probably give you a large window, just to work on creations and making things more efficient. But after all that rambling, let's jump into driving our 7 RPS vehicle. And I'm not going to bother as much driving around the track here. I want to take this guy out on the open road here. And it's just because, without further ado, this one is definitely the more efficient vehicle than the other one. And the reason behind that, honestly, I have no idea. You'd think logically that the 5 RPS vehicle would have a much higher MPG than a 7 RPS vehicle, but for some reason the 7 beats it out. And there are a couple things lingering in the back of my mind, like maybe it's the amount of power needed to push those 5 gears. Torque somewhere maybe could also account to its decrease in MPG there, something like that. So of course if you grab the 5 or the 7, you can test different numbers like that and see kind of why this one is much more efficient. Because really, I just kept testing things and I went with the best combination to give me the highest MPG on this vehicle here. And actually this one is almost as efficient as the vehicle without a hull to it, both of them having a max speed of around 50 miles an hour. I was surprised that adding all this weight didn't really detract much from its MPG. Of course, we do have that top speed of edging around 51 miles per hour. It'll get you where you're going pretty well, and if you are in a pickle off-road, it does have that four-wheel drive standard. Well, it's always running four-wheel drive, so you can climb mountains and whatnot, but definitely it does decrease your efficiency when you do some off-roading, because let's be honest, it is a pretty weak engine right now running at a slow RPS. That means that you can't go up a mountain in 4th gear at highway speed, so it's going to have to drop down gears and be constantly accelerating. So of course accelerating is going to give you a major decrease in that MPG there. So of course I am going to just take this little car here, out on the road for a little bit here and show you guys just how efficient on the highway it can be. Driving around the mega island here, it is a pretty stable vehicle. Alongside with actually creating and testing all the MPG things for my new set of vehicles here, I also did a couple different upgrades to my generic car controller here. I created a controller for the turning here, so the faster you go, the less it'll turn, meaning at its top speed you're not going to have a sudden jerk left or right when you click A and D. How could I forget WSD? I guess I was just looking more so which buttons were the turning ones. Anyways, It's definitely a lot smoother driving. As well, I got rid of the silly PRD controller and used an up and down counter for the clutch, which definitely makes it a lot smoother, and it works quicker than the previous one, and it just has less problems in general. So both of those changes have been implemented into this car, and it makes it, much easier to drive. And of course, a couple cool things I did add onto this. I did add the RGB lights on the back end, so when you have your lights on the front, the brake lights will be light, but when you actually do tap on the brakes, let me do it real quick, those brakes do get brighter on the back end because they are RPG values. But of course I do detract from my MPG because I'm stopping and starting again and not highway speeds right now, but who cares. I did drop in the blinkers on here as well. As you can see on the back end, if I do turn enough, the blinkers will activate. As well on the front end, I do have blinkers. Hopefully I don't run into a tree here. Other than that, it's, pretty much basic hatchback style to it. There's nothing too much to write home about. I kind of tried to make it look cool, but, it looks alright to me. So that is where I am going to be stopping my 7 RPS car here. Average of 1.45 miles per gallon there. Isn't too bad at all highway. And, of course, the door would get stuck on me right now. There is a little glitch on that driver's door, but apparently, there it is. You need to come from the other side and open and close it. Couple numbers on the car. If you do drive it stop and start, city, the car gets about 1 mpg on there, so it is definitely decreased a lot when you stop and start, accelerating and decelerating constantly. That definitely does decrease the miles per gallon, but it's still pretty good in those rights. The best I've ever gotten it on the highway currently is about 1.5 mpg. I know I got 1.45 here, but we went 6.5 miles. So if we kept driving it, it might increase a little bit. It definitely does depend on, where you're driving. I did a couple hills back and forth around here, and I probably would have done a couple more if I kept going there. So one thing I do want to talk about before I end the episode here, I don't really want any hybrid or electric vehicles within my efficiency challenge. I'll definitely drop a note on the efficiency challenge where I talked about it earlier, but I kind of want to leave it just towards, gas engined vehicles here. See how efficient we really can get to them. Of course I am interested in seeing how efficient electric or even hybrid vehicles will be within Stormworks, but for right now, I am just going to leave it to the gas-powered cars. But yeah, that is where I am going to be ending this episode. So of course, if you guys did like this, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel to stay up with Stormworks and more of my content. But I've never been great. Goodbye. People who need me, and I need to go.